Welcome to What's Next with Eric Wood, where we will prepare you to make your what's next in life your best yet. Our next guest is Alex Mack. And Alex was drafted 21st overall in 2009 and then became a 7-time Pro Bowler and was named to the 2010s All-Decade team. Throughout his 13-year career, he played for the Browns, Falcons, and 49ers. We're going to have some fun center-to-center talk on this podcast. And with as well-rounded of a person as Alex is, we're going to learn a lot as well. If you haven't already, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you tune in weekly. And also, if you haven't already, go to Amazon and order my book, Tackle What's Next, and the link to that is in the show notes. Thanks and enjoy. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is your first year in retirement. How's that treating you?
I'm enjoying it. It's a little weird to not have to be, smashing into things every other day or whatever it is. It's nice. It was time to retire for me. Like my body started to be hurting, or that's not very good English. My body was getting harder to play at the level I wanted to. Things were hurting more. There's a bit of a, all right, the end is coming for all of us. Nobody in football can play forever. Like you're just going to have to retire one day. So it was either, when they said I would have to retire because, it's just too beat up and they'd just be like, all right, you're done. Or when I wanted to do it. So
was there a draw to the return to the 49ers? You guys have a heck of a squad. You're coming off the NFC Championship game. Was there a draw to go pursue that Super Bowl ring?
Oh, it was really hard to decide whether or not to actually hang them up or to move on. It was, I really enjoy football. I really enjoy playing the game. I like the guys. I like working hard as a group to achieve a common goal. Like the whole thing is really fun. Also, it pays you a lot of money, which is hard to replicate. I mean, there's just a lot of great things about playing football. It just also is really hard on your body. It hurts a lot. It takes all your time. You can't do anything in your normal life because everything you do needs to be towards football. Like to be good at football, you have to be a very selfish person, and you have to, organize your life in such a way that comes first, and everyone around you kind of suffers for that.
Yeah, and you played in such a way that your body's going to hurt. You also played in a way that you could tell you enjoyed playing the game. It was always inspiring to me. We came out in the same draft class. I watched you in college. I watched you out throughout the NFL, and you never slowed down, which I appreciated. I tried to play that exact same way throughout my last year. I envisioned myself playing, continuing to play as well. And the neck injury happened, and it's all well and good. But you played in a way where you're finishing guys at the end of every play. Like that type of play, like that's how we pride ourselves to play as offensive linemen, but you hurt extra the next day because of that, right?
It was just hard. It's hard to the way I wanted to play the game was to run down field, be around the ball, absolute maximum effort at all times. And it gets harder to do that. Things hurt when you're running down field, and that'll tax your body. And that was one way I always wanted to play the game. I never wanted anyone to ever question my effort. I wanted to work as hard as I could, and if I don't have a good game, I don't have a good game. But no one would ever be like, oh, he just didn't try that one. I never wanted anyone to ever assume that. So I wanted to be downfield, pushing people and do everything else. But I had knee tendonitis the whole year last year, and it just gets tough.
How's the body feeling now?
Feeling pretty good. It's I have aches and pains and things, and but I can't really complain. Shoulders hurt sometimes, but that's every lineman, I assume.
Right.
How's your body feeling?
I feel great. And you say shoulders, at times, my shoulder will kind of be bothering me. I'm like, well, I separated that on 2 QB sneaks, and it is what it is. That shoulder is going to hurt a little bit, but the further you get removed, and obviously not taking shots to the body over and over, your body's going to feel better and better. Your body wants to naturally heal itself. So as long as you give it the right rest and nutrition and everything else, you're going to feel pretty good. Now, when you're inflamed, like anything else in life, you're going to feel worse. So if I'm on a golf trip and we're drinking beers and I'm eating bad and playing a bunch of golf and walking 36 holes, I feel like I played 9 years in the NFL. But beyond that, I feel pretty good. So you have that to look forward to.
Yeah. I know golf is actually kind of painful. Like I did golf one time. Like I can't really complain to you about neck pain, but like the act of like, trying to hit as hard as you can is like no different than actually like whipping your head around left to right anyways, because like everything else is moving around. And I like the next day, like I was ruined. I like could not move. Like I was this was like the 2 off seasons ago. I was actually getting like PT for my shoulder, and we couldn't even do any PT where we just gave up on the day. He's like, all right, we're just gonna focus on your neck today. Like did some like stretches and stuff, and like sent me home. Like just rest. Like get
Yeah.
that better.
So you talked about having knee pain last year and you finished your last year with the 49ers. I've heard that they're about as advanced as anybody in the league as far as recovery and getting their guys back. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it was fun to join a new club for my last year. Like, obviously, I followed Kyle Shanahan because he was my favorite OC, and now he's a head coach, and I just love that system of offense. And so, when that was an opportunity, I jumped at it and decided to give it, 1 to 2 more, tries. Ended up being 1, and I loved it. The really first class organization. Great to go back to the Bay Area where I kind of started football, and it was just really enjoyable to go there and experience a new team. And they did everything really well. They have like a very strong commitment to how your body works and recovery, and they would do all kinds of things. There was definitely a strong commitment to getting your body better. And that was fun. I mean, it was cool to do stuff. They have like Iguascu they had 2 guys that would do like body movement specialty stuff, and I think it was pretty kind of cool. Like I went in there with kind of an open mind and tried it out. I liked it. I still do the stuff they taught me.
Nice. Yeah, I had heard that, and someone referred me to one of those guys wrote a book, and someone referred me to that book, and I haven't got to it yet, but at some point it'll make its way to the top of the queue. But so you mentioned, how many years did you play for Kyle Shanahan, whether OC or head coach?
3 years.
Gotcha.
So 1 year in Cleveland, 1 year in Atlanta, 1 year in San Francisco.
So what makes Kyle such a great coach? His offenses are always successful, but it's essentially a scheme, a system that has been around forever. It's similar to what his dad ran, and this in the NFL is always changing. It's RPOs, it's this and that. What makes Kyle so great that his offenses and his teams are always successful?
I would say Kyle is really successful because he knows football really well. And because he knows each position very well, he can understand how they all fit together. So he was able, like in Cleveland, he got hired as the OC kind of without being able to choose any of his own position groups. Like he was kind of a late ad, and it was a weird dynamic.
It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah. And he was able to come in, and a lot of the coaching, I would just go directly to Kyle and be like, all right, what are we trying to do here? I'm hearing this from the O-line coach. Is that accurate? It seems kind of weird. And he was open-minded. He would talk through stuff, and we'd like figure things out. And he was just really able to take what's important to the offensive line, know that, go to the running back room, be like, all right, well, they need this. So he would coach the running backs to like, your angle has to be this wide, and you have to be this fast, or else you set the angle. And if we're trying to, threaten outside, you need to do that. If you're not fast enough at the running back, it's not going to work for the O-line. And then he would be able to go to the wide receivers and be like, all right, if you guys want to catch like, deep bombs, we're going to have to threaten them with run, pull everybody up, and then it'll open up everything. And all you have to do is same release, except this time smash into this guy because it's a run. And then when it's a pass play, do the same release and look like you're going to smash into him and just keep running. And then we're going to throw you, have a touchdown, you're going to celebrate. And he would just, everything would fit together. He knew how, as an offensive lineman, it's really nice because dropping back and pass protection gets really tough.
Right.
Especially when the defense knows it's coming and you're just always just getting hammered and it's hard on your body. If you have a commitment to the run game, you can then do a play action run and like outside zone fake with like a boot action. And it's like the easiest play in football for us. It's a free play. Yeah. And like the defense, you have tons of time to like throw the ball, everyone get wide open. There's no one near the quarterback. Like it's just like the best thing ever. It's such a win. And all you have to do to have that is run the ball enough that then you get to run these play actions and you have all of a sudden free pass protection plays. And those add up. I mean, instead of dropping back 30 times a game, you drop back 15 and 15 of them are free protection, where you're going to have a lot better offense.
And for an offensive lineman, the worst thing that's going to happen to us is a sack, period. That's the worst thing, or your guy smashes the quarterback. Either way, whether it's a stat that the defensive lineman gets or the quarterback got smashed and it was your fault, like there's nothing worse than that in the game. The amount of times that you can reduce that throughout a game, the better. The more O-line friendly it is. People are constantly on the Bills offensive line about stinking in Buffalo. And I say, look, I know that you guys only watch this team, and I'm not saying I watch every play of every team around the league, but there's a lot of bad offensive lines out there, and the Bills are not a bad offensive line. They drop back to pass 40-something times a game. The other team knows it's a pass. Well, that's the strength of the Bills, and the Bills have maybe the best offensive football, so it doesn't necessarily need to be changed, but you can't harp on the offensive line about giving up some hits, pressures, whatever it may be, because the defensive line knows what's coming, and the threat of the run isn't even necessarily there where they're being punished for pass rushing on every play. And so I always try and defend the offensive line in Buffalo, and sometimes it's hard without a clicker in your hand. But I appreciate you saying that. And there's a lot of Bills fans that tune in no matter who the guest is each and every week. So they'll appreciate that sentiment from you.
Yeah, well, it all ties in together. Even if you're offensive lineman and like, oh, they're having a terrible year. Well, the team could be passing more than it needs to because the defense is bad. That's tough on the offensive line. Like like there's no single part of football that could be viewed in a vacuum.
Right.
Because everything's related. Like if you're behind in every game, well, you're going to be passing a lot more. And you're not going to be able to develop your run game. And that's just what it is. And you're going to have to deal with it because that's the way the cookie crumbles. But to view any single point, like, oh, they don't have as many touchdowns. All right, well, like, what's their time of possession? Are they good on first down? Like, there's so many different ways you can look at any aspect of football. And, you can go back to some of the real basic ones. I remember always grabbing the stat sheet at the end of games, be like, all right, well, how many first downs did we get? Were we productive enough to get a lot of first downs? If you get a lot of first downs in a game, you probably had a good offense. You don't even have to score points, but you control the clock. You're able to move the ball. If you're able to do that, you're probably going to score more points. There's things you can do that like show that you're doing good stuff, but it's just hard. It's hard as offensive lineman also to like defend yourself in a statistical way. Right. I had a great year, like because somebody else did well. It's hard to like quantify anything else. Oh, you got a lot of sacks. Well, all right, we also pass the ball all the time. Other people don't. Or you have a quarterback that runs constantly, and who knows? There's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens.
Right. With this being my 5th season out of the NFL, I gave my most media answer ever to someone who reached out about a suggestion for their midseason All-Pro for the offensive line. And I said, look, I'm getting further and further removed. And yes, I cover the Bills, but I'm not covering the entire league. I said, here's the deal. Probably Jason Kelce at center. The Eagles are running the football really well, and they're playing really well, and he's a really good player. And I felt awful not looking around the league because when I was playing in Western New York and our team stunk every year and I felt like I was playing at a high level, I was never considered for those all-pro teams because the media members that are voting on it don't necessarily know it. And then if they're looking at Pro Football Focus, who knows what kind of grade they're going to give you after a game. And
Yeah.
it's best as an offensive lineman not even to pay attention to those. So, yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole there, but I want to get back to more of your story and your journey in football. And so you go from a two-star recruit to making 7 Pro Bowls in the NFL. What would you credit for that rise in your game, that production, that trajectory that your career ended up taking?
I mean, so I was a very small recruit in high school, and I got to college, and I was like a 2-star, nobody. But like, again, talking about recruiting and people watching games, like I had terrible technique in high school. I was taught to use like forearms and everything else. I absolutely love my coach, because one of the reasons I think I was successful was the coaching I received in high school. They were all about high effort, working hard, trying to get better every day, using the time, and take nothing for granted. So like I was told in high school that like the probability you make it to college is very small, and then the probability from college you make the NFL is really, really small. So you need to focus on school. So I ended up going to Berkeley because I was able to convince him to give me a scholarship when I went to their like football camp. Never seen me before, but showed up, worked hard, did well, and they're like, "All right, this guy's good. Let's, we need a center." So I ended up going to Cal, and I was like, "All right, great. Like, if football is not for me, if I'm not strong and big enough, just fine." I used football to get into college, and now I have the opportunity to, if it's like I can afford to go to Cal because it's a in-state public education. Great. I'll do the best I can. If football's not for me, if I'm just terrible and they cut me, well, I'm at Cal, and life will be all right. I'll focus on school. And then halfway through Cal, like some of the younger guy, like I had earned the backup role as the backup center my second year, and they were like, "You're really good. Like if you keep working hard, like you could make the NFL." I was like, "Oh, didn't know that was an option." And then I ended up like playing and doing well in college and getting drafted, and it just all kind of fell into place. Working hard, trying to do the best I could at the time I had, and got to the NFL. And once I got to the NFL, it was like, all right, like there was never the, "Oh, I've made it, my work's over" moment. It was almost a panicky, like, this is really hard. It's a full-time job. I could get cut at any moment. Like, there's no security. Like, I think we're like 6 games in, and our general manager got fired my rookie season. And I was like, that's the person that chose to draft me. Like, no one else here cares about me now. Like, because when your GM gets fired, like they kind of want to defend their higher picks just because that's their pick. This is the
Right.
guy they chose, and they're going to be the reason your team's good at football. It's just interesting to kind of stumble and bumble your way in the NFL and just keep working hard and being panicked and trying to just make the team, and then slowly just trying to focus on each one day at a time. I end up playing pretty well, I guess. Like there's, I guess, more stories for great learning moments in the NFL, but like constantly it was this go from high school to college, feeling totally inadequate and terrible, having to work really hard and learn new skills to be good at college, and then get to the NFL and feeling the same way. I remember our first game, we played the Vikings, and they put like a clinic tape on how to pick the center on games. I was just getting ruined the whole game. Our team was getting ruined.
Was it
It was,
Williams and Williams?
yeah, Kevin and Pat Williams, and just destroying me. Like just absolutely doing all these different games and stunts and everything else. And I was like, that was brutal. Just like such a brutal game. Welcome to the NFL. I remember going home and be like, I'm gonna get benched. I'm gonna get benched. I'm gonna get like they're gonna cut me. I'm gonna be done. Like football dream is over. Like life is gonna be terrible. And then you just show up the next Tuesday and Wednesday and get back to work.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is it's a consistent work ethic and it's constant humility, knowing that if I don't keep getting better, if I don't keep progressing, then I could be cut. I would say I had many similar feelings to you, and people would often remind me, as a first rounder, you're going to get paid more to walk out the door than you are even on the team. Like, I believe your job is safe. And then even in college, it's very hard to cut a player. You know, I only had one scholarship offer to the University of Louisville. And so I went in there like, I've got to make this work. There's no fallback plan here. And so, all that being said, it's the constant work ethic and never getting comfortable. And when you can take that approach each and every year, then you can put together one heck of a career, maybe a Hall of Fame career. And so I commend you on keeping that attitude. I read about your high school coaches. After your retirement, they talked to Coach Kittle, one of your high school coaches, and he talked about your work ethic. So it's not something that started in the NFL. It's not something that started at Cal. That's something that you came into Cal with. So I commend you on that. And like I said earlier, the way you played each and every week showed that you weren't comfortable. If you were comfortable, you could have said, you know, I'm pretty tired. We might have 90 snaps in this game and it's hot. So on the first play of the game, I better be careful chasing the ball down the field or I might be cramping up here in the third quarter. But you never took that approach. So I commend you on that. You played for 3 different teams. Who do you pull for now?
I mean, it's hard not to like root for the team you're most recently on. Like, I know the most 49ers currently. Like, I was just with that same team. It could be me out there. Like, so I'm kind of rooting for the Niners, but like, it's also kind of cool to see some of the friends I have on the, I still have, I think 2 friends on Cleveland, and then Atlanta, there's a group of guys that I still know and like. So like, I root for all 3 of those. If they all played each other all at the same time, it would be kind of tough. But
yeah, it's easy having an NFC and an AFC team, but yes, the Falcons and the Niners eventually, maybe come playoff time, maybe this year though, they could face off in the playoffs. Then you'd have a real decision to make there. Throughout your career, I like asking other offensive linemen this. You know, I'm not going to ask you who was the hardest guy that you ever had to go against, but what was the toughest type of defensive tackle for you to go against?
I mean, the toughest job as a center, I mean, my opinion here, I assume you would agree, is the wide nose shade that just bolts upfield at a 45-degree angle, and you're supposed to cut him off.
Right.
And like, it's not possible, honestly. Like, the guy is bigger than you. He's got the same angle. He's actually working at a 45 away, and you're already behind him. The thought that you're just going to run in front of him is almost impossible. It's the toughest block in football. Like, and you have to stop that guy from getting over there or penetrating. It's just a nightmare. I remember the other thing, the welcome to the NFL moment, we had Sean Rogers on our team. And he used to just ruin me every day at practice because the guy's like 6'8", 350 pounds. He's enormous, but he's quick.
Yep.
And so like, it was just an absolute nightmare. And like, eventually, like, my coach would be like, listen, he's kind of special. This isn't really what you're going to be facing every day. And luckily he got, complacent and tired, I think, and just like took some time off in training camp to rest. So like, he wasn't playing for like 2 weeks then, and I could actually practice some of the technique on somebody else that wasn't like a superhuman freak.
My rookie year, our rookie year, we play against the Browns, and Sean Rogers playing nose guard for them. I'm actually playing guard at the time. Our offensive line coach was with Sean Rogers in Detroit. He said, hey, this guy hates getting cut, and if you cut him, he'll kind of shut it down. He won't penetrate anymore because he doesn't want to get his legs cut out. He's too big. He doesn't like to get off the ground. Well, we go into this game and it is cold. It's windy. It was a 6-3 game that you guys won. And Derek Anderson only completed 2 passes. It was the least amount of completed passes in a win ever. And so we go into this game and we're going to run a naked bootleg on the second play of the game. And he said, go and cut his legs out and just get him out of the game early. Well, I'm watching his body language and he's already not coming off the ball. So I don't cut him. We go to the sideline and I'm called every name under the book because I didn't cut Sean. I said, he's not even trying hard. He said, I don't care. I told you to do it. So our next possession, we run a naked bootleg the other way. Mutual friend of ours, Andy Levitri, cuts his legs out. Well, now all of a sudden, Sean Rogers is really pissed off. And on every third down, he'd go, all right, I'm lining up over 67. And he went to Levitri every single third down the rest of the game. And it was an absolute nightmare for Levitri. And in the meetings the next day, our offensive line coach understood after seeing the film why I didn't cut on that naked bootleg for no reason. I mean, there was no reason to cut him there, especially to go wake him up. Don't poke the bear. I always used to say that about many big nose guards, but it was almost like a Polynesian, like the Polynesian nose guards are the nicest guys in the entire world until you do something dirty against them. And then you just truly poke the bear and those guys will wake up. So I used to just, double under them, and I'm never cutting their legs out. I'm not finishing them over a pile. And the next day, you're not even...
It comes to mind for me.
Yes.
Such a big, powerful player. But towards later in his career, he wouldn't always try that hard. And so, if he wanted to be nice and relaxed, I'm okay with that. And it's a bit of gamesmanship, and you want to high effort every day, but high effort to an extent in which you're not making your job harder. You also want us to succeed and do well. So I would with Haloti, you just try to oh, good luck there, good job. Because if you make Haloti mad, he's just gonna pick you up and throw you backwards because he's that big and powerful. He just
I only apologize to a guy after a play one time in my NFL career. It was Haloti Nada. My second year, early in the year, we're playing at Baltimore. He's playing the 3 technique. We run a power. I'm still playing guard at the time. And I go to flipper him. So use my forearm, try and rake him, stand him up so the offensive tackle can kind of wash him down. Well, my forearm goes right into his throat, and he's kind of startled, goes back, and I looked at him. He looked at me, and I said, "My bad. I'm sorry." And he stayed really relaxed. I mean, at the time we were 0-4. They were 4. They win the Super Bowl that year. They're a really good team. We were not very good at the time. We did take them in overtime, but that's the only time in my career. It's funny you bring up Haloti Nada. That's the only time in my career I ever apologized after a play. That's hilarious. All right. So
one of the guys, while we're on opponents, do you ever play against Kelly Gregg?
Yes, nicest guy in the world.
I would say he's my favorite person to play against. Not that he was the worst or the easy, he would just approach every game in such a manner that I appreciate that. What a good person to play against. As nice as possible, maximum effort.
Right.
He'd be just absolutely trying as hard as he could every time, but he'd be talking the whole way through the play. So he'd be bull rushing you. Oh, sack, we got you. Oh, here we go. Fumble. And, and he'd just be the whole time. You're just blocking the guy. You're like, what? What are you talking about? Just trying as hard as he can and just, being as nice as possible to play with. Oh, that was a good one. You got me there. He'd hustle back to the huddle.
You played against Domata Peko a ton. He was the same way to me. Now, not quite as nice as Kelly Gregg, but I'm originally from Cincinnati. I would see him at charity events or whatever. Well, we go to play him. First play of the game, walk up. Hey, how's the family doing? And then all of a sudden he does his ninja chop, get your arm. He's by you in pass pro. He has 0 sacks on the year. He's pressuring the quarterback. And you're like, okay, get your mind right here. He is not your friend in this moment. And he doesn't want to be your friend. He's getting you out of your game. You need to lock in. And I'll never forget that. So later in my career, when I'd play Domata before the game, I'd be like, all right, get your mind right. He's going to be conversing the entire game. You cannot let that get you out of your game.
I don't think me and him ever talked. I think it was just a subtle silence of do your job. Kelly, I never talked much to anybody really.
Yeah.
Kelly Gregg would talk at me, and I never really needed to try to do anything to your opponent to make him more fired up. I never understood talking shit because let's motivate this person more.
Right.
See how that would make sense.
I know it. I used to get mad when guys would talk trash to the guys I was blocking. A receiver goes and talks trash to a D tackle. I'm like, please don't do that. That guy was chilling. Now he's all ticked off and you get to still run routes on the outside. Now I have to deal with that.
Yeah, I remember Joe Thomas used to like he would tell the guard, like, listen, like I'll tell you when you should like clean up the D end, but some guys like let's not piss them off. Like just let them be out there and like you don't need to murder shot this guy currently. And it was a different way of looking at football because
Right.
some people probably like could benefit from a murder shot because it would make them quit or worry more or they were going to be high effort anyways. So you go ahead and do it. But some guys like they're just there to try to get one sack a game and get a Hall of Fame, and if they have that then they're done. And like it's different level of people.
Yep. You're absolutely right. All right, switching gears a little bit. You're very well traveled, and I understand that's a passion of yours. Is there a favorite place that you've traveled to?
Yeah, so every off season I try to go to a different spot. It was just something that I never got to travel when I was in high school, and in college you have no time or money to do it, so couldn't really travel much then either. And so after my rookie season, I'd always wanted to do some like foreign travel, whatever. And so I ended up, me and a buddy, we went to Thailand for 3 weeks, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. Like I have to say, Thailand's like one of my favorite places to go because it's right next to Australia, so it's filled with English speaking people constantly doing tourism there. So like it's really well set up for the tourism, but it also feels really authentic. And this strange new place with weird squiggles for writing. It's just a really enjoyable, very cheap, easy place to like go and travel and see things and explore the world and have tons of fun. So I had a great time doing that. So Thailand is one of my favorites that I've ever been to. It was also one of my first, so like maybe it's very biased. Another one that I thought was really cool was Hong Kong. This was before it broke out into riots and is a terrible place to go, but it was a really dynamic city with like small, easy to see around, tons of history, great food, friendly people. Like I thought Hong Kong was really cool as well. Like I remember really enjoying that.
Yeah, if you're going to travel in the off season, the food has to be good enough for you to eat it, or else you're going to lose too much weight over a 3 week period. So that would definitely be a benefit there.
That was never a problem for me. It's currently a problem because I still want to eat all the food and be the same weight I'd play at. So
Right, right.
we're working on that.
Yeah, you got time for it. Speaking of food, as an offensive lineman, we all love food, but you like to cook. What's your specialty in the kitchen?
God, what do we do? I mean, the best things I've ever done is like rack of lamb. Really like rack of lamb. I think it's delicious. It's not that hard to do yourself. For a while, rack of lamb was actually kind of easy to buy just in the store. It was like pretty cheap. It's caught up. It's not cheap anymore.
Nothing's cheap anymore.
Nothing's cheap anymore. But I learned to cook when I was in Cleveland because I was now, living in Cleveland, and I didn't really feel like I had access to all the food I liked or like have control over what I eat. Like a lot of the food in Cleveland was just like bar food, deep fried burgers, things like that. And I was like, I can't really do this. Hold on one second. There's a street sweeper outside. Maybe you can't hear that. I don't know.
No, you're fine.
So I learned to cook when I was in Cleveland because I wanted more control over what I eat in life, and I wanted to be able to figure out what my diet was and have control over what I did. So I just started like one season I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, if I'm not going out with some like friends or teammates, I'm gonna try to cook that meal. If it's terrible, then it's I'll microwave some hot pockets or something. But if I burn it and it's terrible, like it's just me. Like I don't. There shouldn't be any fear of failing at this because it just like, so I eat slightly burned food or something. Like it's gonna be okay. So I started watching a lot of Good Eats and just cooking for myself and trying to figure out, all right, how do I eat healthier and try to control what I put in my body better, because eating just fries and burgers was not doing it.
Yeah, we got to keep the weight on, but we also have to have some quality to the food we're eating because essentially it is still fueling us. So recently you called an NFL broadcast on the radio. Is that something you see yourself pursuing?
uh I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was cool to be still involved with football. I thought that was really fun. I have a lot of knowledge that like is kind of fun to use. It's a lot of work though. You know, I'm used to studying film of one opponent and only looking at the defense. And so all of a sudden I had to look at two teams, both sides of the ball. So I'd evaluate like a team's offense and I was like, I don't know what plays they're running. Like, how am I supposed to know if they're doing a good job or not? Like, this is weird. So I had to like it was a new experience to try to like follow two teams and talk about them and come up with something that's accurate but entertaining. It was a bit of work. I thought it was fun though. I did enjoy it. I would probably do it again. I'm not currently signed up to do another game, but that might change any moment. So
My first year out of the league, I called one college football game for Fox on TV, and it was Thanksgiving weekend. No one wanted to work that weekend, so I got to call a game for Fox that weekend. And then the following year, I did college games on Saturday and NFL games on Sunday. So I went all in the following year. So who knows where this next 6 months or a year takes you? But the opportunities could start coming your way, and you may have a decision to make on your hands.
yeah, I mean, it was an opportunity to give it a try, have some like tape of me. So if I want to apply for more, I can do it. I think the tough thing for me is it's a big time commitment. If I, have to study all that film and then travel every Sunday, well, I might as well just play the football game then, because I'm taking the same amount of time away from like, me and my wife to do other fun things. So it's there's give and take constantly.
Okay, I can promise you, as you settle into it, you will not feel the same about the hours. I can promise you that. And but early on, yes, understanding everything, understanding how it works, being
Well,
prepared.
yeah, you're right. It's not a full week of prep and practice and physical activity. So it's not a player. That's another reason. Like, I don't think I'd go into coaching is because coaching is the same life as a player, but just more meetings without being physically tired. Like, coaching would be a big time sink and a very difficult thing to decide to get into because
Yeah.
you get fired every 2 or 3 years anyways, and so moving your family constantly, there's a lot of tough things with the football lifestyle.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, I got a few recurring questions for you. You're a avid reader, and this may be tough because it's tough for me as a reader as well, but do you have a favorite book?
There's a number of books that I remember really enjoying. I remember in college I read Pillars of the Earth. It's a Ken Follett book. It's about like the life of a medieval town built in a cathedral. And I remember it being excellent. I remember really, really enjoying that. It's like a historical fiction kind of what life would be like for a village building cathedral. And there's a bunch of drama and other stuff. But I remember it being a really, really good book and just like not being able to put it down. Other really good books. I mean, I read a lot of fiction, so like I read like science fiction and stuff because like it's kind of fun. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is a great old science fiction book that I remember really enjoying. Just makes you think, like, it's kind of cool. But
What was
yeah,
your what was your first car
uh, like ever, I had like my
ever?
dad's old Honda Accord,
Nice, me too. What year?
85, 87. I don't know. Like
Okay,
it
I had
was,
you by a few years. I was early 90s.
like I'm not really sure what it was, but it worked great. It was a great first car.
What was
You
your
know,
first car? What was your first car you bought when you got in the league?
I got a F-150. It was a very sensible purchase that, all right, like I'll always like I wasn't sure how beat up my body was gonna be. I wasn't sure if like, oh, I'm gonna need to get something that's easy to get into because I'm gonna just be ruined every week. And that was a bit overblown. Like I could have been fine in any car. Like season wasn't gonna be that tough.
Right.
Uh, but F-150 worked out great. It's great to be able to haul stuff around. I kept it all the way until I moved to San Francisco.
Wow, that's impressive too. What's your favorite restaurant
Like ever?
ever?
I can't remember the name of it. I went to one spot in Budapest. It was like a 1 Michelin star restaurant. It was one of the first things they did, and they did this like gastronomic like tasting menu, but they paired it with wine, and so it was like a 7-course meal with 7 like little sips of different like Hungarian wines. And I just remember it being like an amazing night of food and wine and tasting, and it was really fun.
That's
That would
really
be
cool.
my one of my best dining experiences.
When you guys would travel to Buffalo for a game, would you guys ever eat wings the night before the game?
So my family's all from Buffalo.
Yeah.
So my aunt, who is still lives there, she would bring us Anchor Bar wings after the game. She would like find a way that the game would end, and she would give me like a big pizza box and a big box of wings, and be able to like snack on them in the bus. So Anchor Bar would be where I would not eat Anchor Bar wings just before a football game, though. That seems like a mistake for physical performance.
I know. I see it all the time now. Like Stephon Diggs will send a bunch of wings to the away team hotel, and whoever he sends them to will put it on social media, thank you deal. And I'm like, man, there's some gamesmanship there, because especially if you're not used to eating wings the night before a game, like your stomach is going to be in shambles the next day. I was always, I would stick to kind of the steakhouse routines the night before games.
I would generally not do anything before games. I would eat the team meal that was always the same. I would try to eat at the same time. I would wake up at the same time. I was very much a creature of habit of, all right, this is what I eat before game. I have the sweet potato and I have a piece of steak and I eat pasta with red sauce, and like that's it. And then I'll have, for breakfast, I would do the same exact egg scramble thing every breakfast before the game, because I didn't want anything to be different. I was like, all right, this is before. Let's not mix, like, let's not rock the boat, and just do the same amount of eggs, the same, just try to eat the correct amount, not too much, not too little, and just try to keep things the same.
Yep, there's extreme power in habits and just controlling what you can control in those situations. All right, last one for me. This is what's next with Eric Wood. What's next for Alex Mack? What do you have coming down the line for you in these upcoming months?
Great question. I don't know what's next. I now have a lot of freedom. I used this first year retirement. I did a lot of travel with my wife. I actually got married because COVID canceled our wedding for 2 years straight. That was fun. I am gonna try to kind of remodel my house and figure out, that. Try to decide what else I want to do. I have a fair amount of free time. I need to kind of do a bit of searching and dabbling to figure out what do I want to do, and I don't know that. I have ideas for, I tried broadcasting, gave that a shot. I think I should do some job shadow stuff, because I always wanted to get like an MBA and like throw myself into a new career and learn new skills and develop and go into normal life. But I also just kind of want to sit at home and do house projects and, build things with my hands. So I'm not sure what I want to do.
Yeah, my advice, and this is no expert opinion, but my advice would be, don't be afraid to try things and don't be afraid to fail. It's okay to try something for 6 months and say, hey, that wasn't for me. It's okay. You're in your mid-30s and you're on a second career. But I had this conversation with Chris Long recently on the podcast. You have to be able to accept that a lot of people around you have to work an 8 to 4, a 9 to 5, and you don't. You've worked hard enough to earn that freedom, so you don't need to feel guilty about it. But ultimately, we need something that we're passionate about and pursuing in life, or else we're going to feel very unfulfilled. And so
Yeah.
I just wanted to pass that along to you, because when Chris said that to me, it gave me a little bit of grace in my life, because we just see everyone around us working so hard and so many hours. And we're so used to the football world where it's just all in every week. Okay, now we have some time off in the off season. We're still training, but then it's all back in. Like you don't have to, like you've earned this opportunity to do house projects, to spend extra time with your wife because of the sacrifice you made already. And honestly, the selfish sacrifice at times that we talked about earlier in the show, that it's all consuming when you're in the NFL. So just want to leave you with that.
Yeah, I mean, great advice. I think that's why I did the broadcasting thing. I was like, I'm not sure I want to do this. I'm a little scared of, trying this new thing. I was like, well, the worst thing happens. Like, I'm terrible at, a radio broadcast. Like, that's not that bad. So there's one game. There's going to be another game the next week that somebody else will be better or worse at, and everyone will forget about my terrible broadcasting. So like I gave it a shot and, kind of liked it. I'd do it again for sure. Yeah. What do you want to do? You have all the time in the world. Like, all right, well, kind of want to try some new stuff.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a fun adventure, and I now have the free time that I never used to have, and now I get it. Like, I'm hopefully going to see my family for Thanksgiving, and that'll be amazing. Probably the time this airs, Thanksgiving will already have happened, but that's fine.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, buddy, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast, giving me and the listeners your time here today. Anything I can ever do for you, I'm in your corner, brother. It was so fun to watch you, and we're both centers at the same time coming out of college, both drafted in the first round, me 8 picks later, but I got drafted as a guard as well, which was fun. And we could fill a whole nother podcast about that. But anyways, it was, you were always someone I constantly admired. You pushed me to be a better player, honestly, watching you each and every week on film. So I want to honor you in that way. And I know that you'll crush this transition just like you've crushed everything else on your journey.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. I know it was fun to come out together and do the combine and the I think Senior Bowl too.
Yep.
You were there, right? Yeah. It was me, you, and Unger were like battling for the center position, and then it was fun to watch all of us kind of go together and succeed and be really good players throughout the league. It was always fun to keep tabs. It was great for you to be in Buffalo because Andy was a friend and we'd play each other either in the season or the preseason. So we constantly were, crossing paths and saying hi. And it was, it's fun to make friends with guys on different teams.
Yep. No doubt about it. Thanks again, brother.
See you, Eric.